This time this morning, we are taking news strips inside of our first hour. But of course, why don't we? Because all through last week, we had so many entries for the dailies, and it was a very, very difficult pick to decide which one makes it onto our news strips for a Saturday morning. But they're all related. We're going to be addressing two matters here. But first, let's start with Business Day in Nigeria. From through the week, we had this very interesting piece of art/news. Hit us then. Endure bad governance. Hey, look, it's the leader by example. Well, apparently not. This is a protest against all forms of protest. Judith, I'd like to bring you in. You and I covered most of the coverage, the live coverage for the End Bad Governance protests that have been happening since 2 days ago, didn't we, Judith?
Absolutely.
And if you remember, we had these cases actually brought to our attention with people telling about the fact that while they were protesting, they also had, anti-protesters who were free to move about while they were restricted to, specific locations. You want to remind us of some of those that we had from yesterday and the day before, Judith, please?
Oh, absolutely. My pleasure. So what was very interesting about it was that as they were protesting, individuals came outside and said, you cannot protest. You know, we're anti-you protesting ending bad governance, or we're not protesting with you. But what was the interesting thing about this was as the protesters who were protesting against those protesting.
Yeah, I know. It's a tough one.
Right, as they were doing all of that, what was very interesting was at the end of it, when journalists went there to interview them, most of them, they flipped the script. They said, look, yes, so we're anti-protesters, but the truth of the matter is that we're hungry. We collected 5,000 naira. The issues were severe. We had to do it. We didn't have any other choice. We were paid for it. You know, but it was very interesting to see.
There was the interesting story. If you remember, Justice was with us yesterday as a guest, and he told about the story of the protesters who were actually arrested by regular civilian and then handed over to authorities for, not really doing anything. It was a very interesting take. Different experience from different parts of the country came through, especially here in Lagos and at the Ojota protest grounds at the Gani Army Park. If I'm not mistaken, that's what where it's called. Now let's move on now to our next strip for today, and it's very related because, I mean, hey, it's all about the protest now, isn't it? Keep protesting, I'll be here eating, oh yum yum. This sparked off so many sentiments last week, if you remember. Judith, does that person look familiar to you?
Oh yeah, so that's my uncle from the South. That's my uncle from the South. That's my uncle from the South.
No.
None other than the Senate President, Senator Akpabio.
Yes, exactly.
Akpabio. It's look, of course he is eating. I mean, look at the guy. Look at him. Look at the photograph. Look at it on the screen, and my goodness, he indeed is eating. Okay.
When the story hit social media about the fact that someone had said such, I didn't believe it. I was like wondering in what context. And then the video hit social media, and it was many people, not myself now speaking from every single opinion that I've heard, thought that it was a bit insensitive to say what he said there on that platform. It wasn't the right time, no matter what context he wanted to put it or use it as. It was definitely the most insensitive thing to have been said
very
at such a gathering. What do you think?
Very tone deaf. You've put it absolutely well. Very tone deaf. And I must say this, that it begs to ask the question about empathy when it comes to the ruling class, about empathy, about how they see the persons that voted for them, and that is Nigerians, about how they see the positions that they find themselves. Because when you think about it in and of itself, for you to be in those positions of power, you must be for the people. And when the people decide to go outside to say, look, we are hungry, we cannot do this anymore, we have to demonstrate for you to see us, that's the only way. You flip the script and say, well, be protesting, we'll be back at home eating.
Yeah. I mean, hey, insensitive, it was real. He actually did say that, but he'll argue on the grounds of context. Let's move on now to the next headline, or rather not headline, the next strip that we have for today. Now, this one's coming off of the Guardian newspaper. Of course, you know the Guardian and their air bubbles, or quote bubbles. Yeah, you plan to hold the protest. How, Governor? After rolling out the tanks, we'll roll out the area boys. After that, we'll go for the jugular. We'll roll out the bullion vans. Judith, where there were stories about people being offered monies from yesterday, was there? They wear those now, weren't they?
They were now. They were. I mean, so what's interesting about this thing is how, for the very first, I don't know if this is the first time, because I'm trying to find a way to couch this, right? So I don't know if this is the first time, but I want to, but for me, and I stand to be corrected, and I will, if you see any, if our viewers see anything that is, this is not the first time, let us know. But I see this as the very first time for me, in my own memory, where anti-protesters would come out, protest, and then say, they gave me money. I know them.
I know
I
what you're
can
thinking.
point them.
It's something you hear only during elections.
Exactly. Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
What's going on here in 2024?
It is very interesting because they're not lying about it. And in fact, there was a video that I saw on social media. This man came out and said, I was there, it's me. I know. I brought him. They came to meet me in this place and they gave me 5,000 naira.
That's
and I know
scary.
the person. It's like, what's the person's name? I can't remember the person's name for sure. But if you take me there, I will point at the person. And it's very interesting that this is the very first time in a long while where people are coming out and telling you as is and not pretending or lying.
A lot of these stories going around, but we'll take the next the next strip for today. Remember I said there are two issues we'll be addressing, but let's move on to the next one. I'm hoping it's the one that I'm thinking. Let's see now. Here it is. Dad, why do you have those two t-shirts? Well, it depends on which side you're on. And he explains, I'll wear the white t-shirt if I see the police, and I'll wear the green one if I see the protesters.
Well,
do you remember the video of the young man who was actually fervently complaining about the bad state of affairs in Nigeria, the bad governance, yet his placard was, say no to protests? It was a very interesting video and it went viral of this man who was like totally against, everything the pro-protesters are protesting for.
Yeah.
But his placard was a totally different message. Apparently he wasn't sure which t-shirts to wear.
The script was not, he didn't read the script properly.
The script
you know what I mean? It wasn't scripting. And honestly, the truth of the matter is this, Nigerians are tired. You can tell that they are exhausted and they are tired and they are desperate for a dire change. They want it now. They want it right now. It's very clear.
What's your take on the absence of the president's address in whichever form?
Oh, goodness. I have, I'm going to take off my hat as a journalist and put on the hat as a Nigerian.
Don't take off the wig.
Yeah, of course, I can. I'm going to take off my hat as a journalist, put on the hat as a Nigerian, and say that I don't think an address would be enough. Okay. I don't think that him coming out to, although everyone has clamored and asked for him to address Nigerians, which of course he has to do as the president and the number one citizen and the leader of the nation. Of course he has to do that to say, I hear you. I have received your demands. This is the steps that we're taking. Wait for my next step. I think that is necessary to be done. It is expected of him, but I do not think that it will be enough.
Okay.
I don't think
we'll keep it there because we have an entire show all geared for this conversation. So yes, thank you for that submission, Joseph. Our very last one this morning is something that takes us outside of the protest confines, and it's a very interesting. Oh, hang on a second. There's this one here. Now, we've established an oil refinery and need high-quality crude from you. Oh, well, I'm afraid we can't give you high-quality crude, but we'll give you high blood pressure.
Well,
the second instance from last week was all about Dangote refineries and the hardships that he is facing trying to relate with the Nigerian government. There have been talks about being provided crude from Nigeria at certain rates, but then again, it's still so tough to actually do business. There was another strip, I think, from last week, if I'm not mistaken, that had him, a picture of Dangote, carrying the refinery on his head and asking, please, I beg, come and buy, because I'm tired of Nigeria's wahala. Well, let's hope that he's not too tired, because we've got our eyes on that oil. We've got our eyes on the product that he'll be bringing out of that refinery. I just hope that not just he shouldn't give up, the Nigerians or the Nigerian government. Give him a chance. Come on.